One thing the Dales are rightly renowned for is their abundance of characters, or characters as the Dales folk like to call them. The area's always been rich in these colourful individuals, many of whom have become part of the local folklore. Of course, if you ask about them, you'll more than likely be told that they're all dead and gone now, something I've always found rather amusing, because the person telling you is probably well on their way to becoming a great character himself. This was nicely brought home to me on a visit to Wensleydale, where in the market town of Hawes, there's very little you can teach them either about colour or individuality. But even here, one name crops up over and over again. Kit Calbert, the man who founded the Wensleydale Creamery. Kit Calbert, the eccentric, who ran a bookshop where customers paid what they thought a book was worth. Kit is dead now, but the bookshop is still here, and the erratic hours, basically it opens and closes on the whim of the management, suggest that the present owner is honouring the eccentric tradition. Now, for the benefit of the very few people who won't have heard of Kit Calvert, can you give us a pen picture of him? Who and what was he?
He called himself, the book's up there, the complete dalesman, which perhaps sounds conceited, but he was a complete dalesman because he was a harum-scarum as a lad. He left school at, I think he was 13 he left school, and he finished up selling out to the horse dairy to the milk marketing board for a ginormous sum of near £500,000. And of course that made him, in the eyes of all the people here, he already was pretty famous anyhow, but that was it. He was a local lad who had really come good. He was very shrewd. He chewed a pipe, and his silences were often, unless he was telling a story, longer than his speeches, and you had to read between the lines. And as for his books, well, people used to give them to him for nothing, and he'd say, well, if I get them cheap, they go cheap. You see that box? That was the on the table when I took over, and I still get people in. 2 days ago I got people coming in here and they say, when I first came to this shop there was a box where you put your money, the price of the book. I said, you're wrong. It didn't say the price of the book, it said the value of the book. That was Kit. When I came to Hawes, it was 78. I'd heard about him beforehand. I thought, a fantastic bookshop in a place like Hawes, which is, some people would say is the back of beyond. But I'm afraid he'd let it go to seed. But it was still worth going in because he was such a great raconteur. I got some lovely stories from him. Then one day he kept dropping hints, and I wasn't taking them up, but I knew that what he was doing. I knew he was. Then one day he says, well, I'm not going to take my car licence out, so I won't be able to go around buying any more books. Well, he hadn't been buying any books for years. So I thought, this is it. So I said, well, don't do anything foolish until you have a word with me. He whipped out his notebook, showed me last year's taking, an £800 turnover. And that's how it started. And I said that I would take over only on condition that he continued to use it, as he had been using it for quite a long time, as a meeting place for his cronies. In fact, it was called Hawes Parliament, because there were these old chaps chewing the fat away on the Tuesday afternoon and on a Saturday. It was good those days. And then in 1984, Kit just turned his face to the wall. I went to get him up on New Year's Day, and I said, what are you doing in bed in this fine morning? He says, there's nothing to get up. I said, of course there is. There's two lads come to sing the song of Wensleydale for you. Let the new year in. And he got up. But he'd said to me that he'd had a long life and a good one, and he was ready to go to a better. And 3 days after that, he turned his face to the wall and died.
In Terry Cluderay, Kit Calvert saw a natural successor to run the quirky little bookshop. Trained by the Jesuits, this former principal lecturer in education seems perfectly at home among the antiquarian tomes. What shines through, though, is his love of literature, especially poetry.
Well, that's my passion, has been all my life. I was writing poetry when I was 14, and I said it to my English master, who was my mentor, Father Wilking, SJ, and he said, say that you write verse and I hope somebody else will call it poetry. Mid-term madness. Low cloud drenched the slopes of Weather Fell, and down below in Hawes, damp seemed to swell thick duffel coats and chill those underneath. Greetings were squeezed thinly through gritted teeth. Some council workers watched in disbelief and mild disdain. Their digging stops as tourist walkers set off for the tops. A normal February day in brief. And such it stayed most of the way we went, along the stone-flagged path to Bertiset, the finger post and stile, the sharp ascent of Yorbascar, the muffled silhouette of Drummeldrace, to suddenly forget the cold and wet as sun strikes Pennygent. I do a lot of writing, and you get tired after a couple of hours, so I just break off for a quarter of an hour and fiddle about on the clarinet. And I imagine myself being a great musician. Nobody else does, but so was. I've always loved the instrument, and Mozart's clarinet concerto, that slow movements, has always been one of my favourites. Love to be able to play that, never shall, but I just amuse myself with it.
What is it about the people of the Dales that you like so much?
I won't say it's their forthrightness, because you know they don't approve more often than not by their silences. You know, you say something, I saw so-and-so, that was pretty good of him, wasn't it? That means they don't agree with you. See, but they're honest. They are straightforward in their approach. You know you're accepted when they start abusing you. If they're polite with you, then they're keeping you at the distance.
Now this, can I say, this is pure gold. I shouldn't say I want to buy it off you, but 25 quid, man. Who's going to buy it? Can I haggle or
Where
what?
did you find them?
Well, it's round there.
I had a customer in for those yesterday who was prepared to pay 30.
Absolute nonsense.
I get a great satisfaction from chatting with people in a way that you perhaps wouldn't want to speak to a customer if you're living dependent upon their custom.
Cash. 20 quid cash. You're a gentleman.
Good lad.
They're really very good.
So you don't regard it as a business?
Oh, no.
And how do you work out your pricing with a philosophy like that?
My wife can't understand this. What I say is whatever I get on a book is all profit. She says, but how can it be? I mean, you've got the light and the rent and the rates, for example. Oh, yes, I said, well, it's worth paying that for my hobby. I mean, so she says, but then you've bought the book. But once I bought the book, that money's gone. I've got the book. You know, I forgot about the money. I've got the book. So if I sell the book, then it's 100% profit. I've got it all back. I got the enjoyment of spending it on the book, and it's all come back, and I go and have that enjoyment again. No. So
You sound like a happy man.
yes, thank God. I think that's true. Eric Gill, said that the happy man is the man who does what he likes in his working hours and what he has to do in his spare time. And that's true, been true of me most of my life, actually. So I have a lot to be thankful for, in addition to my 8 children.